Hello. Okay, we are. Oh man, darn it.
What?
Hold on a second. Hold on a second. We're working here. We're working here. I think the this is a mess.
Uh-oh.
All right. I think Rumble may be down.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, Rumble says edit. Let's see. I don't know. Scheduled start times. I don't know. It's Rumble is not working.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh. And I love Rumble. Okay, well, my Rumblers, man, Rumblers, can you come over to YouTube? I hate to say that, but I think Rumble is out of action here. Oh man, yeah, Rumble's out of action. Let me see if I can fix it. Sorry. This is Karen Cole, by the way.
Hi. I'm real.
She's a real person, actually. Go live. I don't know what's happening.
Let me see if I can see comments.
My comment, okay.
Yes, I can see comments.
Go tell them to come over to YouTube if they're having problems, because I think it says it's got a little error on StreamYard. It says it's not working.
Oh.
Welcome. It's Thursday night, 8:00. Can you post on Rumble? Everybody go over, tell the Rumblers to come over here if you can. Oh, goodness. All right. Well, so let's see who we have over here in YouTube. I'm sorry, Rumble. I love you guys. You know I'm a Rumbler at heart. You're my favorite people. But for some reason it's broken. I don't know. Let me remove that. Remove that. I'm going to try one more thing.
I'm thinking, would I be able to present?
I'm going to try one more thing. Hold on.
Share screen. It does allow me to. That's interesting.
Yes, this is isn't this sad? See, this is a professional operation. That's all I'm telling you. Okay, there's that create new live stream. I don't know. It bugged out on me. My feed browser. Okay.
I'm the worst. I'm just learning StreamYard myself. So
I don't know how to do that. So it's going to be a YouTube only stream.
Oh.
All right. Well, sorry about that. And most of my followers are on Rumble. Actually, I've got most of my people are on Rumble because YouTube has a tendency to delete people without notice for no reason. So
and not notify them.
So my strategy has been Rumble only. But I just took that off, so it's only on YouTube's and Twitter is where we're doing. But so I'm sorry, guys. All right. Well, let's just say hello. First of all, Karen Cole, UK lawyer. Right over here. I'm Steve Gosney. Hello. And Nick Starro, of course. Sadie, Farm Girl Mom. Good to see you. I met her up in West Virginia. She's a really cool person. She's my kind of person. This is my kind of person right here. All right. Sadie and Catherine K and Chuck and Belle's in the house. Oh, is Sadie?
Change the link and password on Rumble, somebody says.
I don't know. It blinked. I deleted it. It's YouTube only today. Just on. Chat is gone. Lily, Spellers, and who else? Intro's just playing on Yo. I don't know. Something went wrong over on Rumble, but here we are on YouTube. So would you introduce yourself to the YouTube's community and the Steve Gosney community? Who are you, Karen Cole?
Yeah, I'm Karen Cole. I'm a Canadian, and I moved to England about 29 years ago, just after I graduated university. And I started YouTube during COVID, like everyone else. And I thought it would be a good way to let my clients know kind of what was going on, because a lot of people end up asking the same questions. So I thought it would be good to put something together for people so that they could just, I give the example, like if a grandmother wants to see your grandchildren, well, they don't have automatic rights in England. So I do a lot of civil cases and criminal cases, employment cases. So I thought, well, if I have a place where I can say, well, watch that video, and then if you still want to talk, give me a shout back.
Well, that's kind of what when I write because it's like, I get questions all the time that are maybe a little more difficult than your average daily question. So I'd write. And you reached out to me and you said, oh, I've got this little YouTube channel and I'm doing stuff. And you said, I'm a lawyer and I'm in England and I'm Catholic. And so those are all my favorites because I studied for a semester at Trinity College, Cambridge. People may not know that. And when I was in law school, and I love England. I love the English people. I love Scotland. I love Ireland. I love the whole UK.
One of the girls that I worked with at the county solicitor's office, her dad was the county solicitor for Cambridge. So.
And here's Andrew commenting. Of course, you know that I only read $10 super chats, Mr. Law Self-Defense. But since you're commenting in all caps, yelling at me, I figured I'd better answer because I don't want you to be mad at me. Tell us what you'll be talking about.
Steve, I want to know why you thought I wasn't real.
Yes, that's right. First thing is, you've been accused maliciously by some YouTube personalities of being not real. How do you respond to that? Are you an AI generated lawyer?
I'm not. I was going to say, what should I do? What can I do to make you believe? How do we prove oneself?
Second, we're going to talk about faith. And one of the thing that really piqued my interest was faith in the law, faith in the law. And that one of the things I think is woefully inadequate in law is strictly following the law, because the law without soul is an evil weapon of tyranny. Mm-hmm. You have to have an element of humanity, I believe, faith, morality, structure, compassion, human understanding. One of the things that people always ask me is like, well, what should I read to study the law? One of the things is being more diversified than just being a blinder person who all you think about is law all the time. Because if you define yourself by law, an understanding of literature and music and the humanities as generally, understanding human beings and people and the flaws and the history and the problems the moral crises that we deal with, all of these things play out in the law because we lawyers deal with people at their worst, right?
Yeah, and when I was at university, I was also working for the Canada Corrections, and one of the so I was a parole officer for 4 years, and one of the things, and I've kind of got a little demonstration to show you, because our head of service, he said, look, we had a talk from a judge, and he was talking about, it's really sad that people don't see, they can be an excellent criminal if they could just turn themselves around and realize that their skills that they have at working so hard at, deceiving and everything. So I've got this little demonstration. So this is them on the outside, right? They're just like this they've had a rough life. They're hard to reach. But if you can change their life, you can show them what's inside of them and how much they have to offer. So I kind of like that. And in sentencing, so there's another one that kind of illustrates, I don't know if you can see how pretty it is.
Yeah, that's perfect. I love those.
Like really, really pretty. And so it's trying to get people to understand, like offenders to understand that what they have to offer, they can change, they can make a decision.
Well, and what you're referring to there is oftentimes what we deal with in criminal law, in prosecutors and judges. Sometimes they see an endless line of people and all they see is that rough exterior, judging through the police report, and they don't see the lifetime that somebody has lived, and
the abuse and everything.
Well, I just got to acknowledge, I shamed Mr. Branca into throwing a $20 super chat my way. Thank you very much for the super chat, Mr. And thank you, by the way, to all of my subscribers. You know, people can subscribe, and I made the lowest tier. If you just want to be a supporter, it's only like $1.99, a month, which is, I think, the cheapest that we can do. So people have been like rewarding with this, you know, but there's different tiers, and that is awesome. And I'm going to try to stream a little bit more in the beginning of the year, in the next few days, because I've got another death penalty case coming in, and once that hits, I'm going to be out of action again, knockout punch. And people may know, people may know, well, I got so much to talk about. See, all this stuff, it's like shaking a bottle, right? Yeah, this is a question I've had. How can you be a UK lawyer when we don't have lawyers here?
Where don't you have them? In America?
UK. How can you be a UK lawyer when we don't have lawyers here? Coke
Where
Ferry.
is she? Where is
Explain
she from?
what, because I said, are you a solicitor? Explain what a solicitor.
No. So, and this is why I made a little a little slideshow for you. But when I first came over to England, I met with, because I was working for Canada Corrections, we had a project and we were looking into CCTVs. Okay. So when I came over here, I had a meeting with the chief of police, and he showed me all the CCTVs, and I met with the prison, the head of the governor of the prison. And I had just graduated from criminology and sociology. And so I had finished my LSATs, and I got a 67 on the the score, when they grade you on a bell curve. And so to get into the university that I went to, which was Western Ontario, you needed about an 80. Okay. So he said to me, well, if you're in England, you can be a lawyer, because a lawyer is somebody who either studies the law or works in the law. And then to become a solicitor, you just write the bar exam. Right. So they've opened it up, like, as long as you have a degree, in any degree, you can go for a bar, but that would be a solicitor. Now, when you work for the county solicitor's office or a local authority, you don't need to be a solicitor, because you act for them. So I would go into court and act on behalf of them. So I took cases to court in civil law for them. And then I also worked in the taking people to court for benefit fraud and wrong decisions and stuff like that, benefit decisions and stuff. So that's the difference. You don't need to be a solicitor, right? Because a solicitor is after you've gone to you go to the solicitor's authority and write their exam, right? So
it's a very different system, the US.
And it's a first year degree here. Right. Okay. So a BA, that's why it's equivalent, because in England, kids come out of a high school and they can go straight to law school because it's a program. Mm-hmm. So, and if you take criminology, it's got a lot of law in it, right? There's a lot of law programs, and, the 4 years in, with the Canada Correctional Services. And then, of course, I was trained here as well by the County Solicitor's Office. I was trained by Lord Wolfe when the civil procedures had just changed in 1997. So I was trained by Lord Wolfe, the one who made the changes. So that's why. And people don't understand that in England, it's a first year degree. So you just go straight out. Whereas in Canada, you have to get a BA, then you go to law school after that, right? So, and you become a barrister, a solicitor and a barrister. So I had that training too. I had mock courts and all of that, because what I did after writing my LSATs is I took maybe about 5 courses in the law program. So it's just that because I moved over here, what was the point of doing that? I didn't need to. And I just retired from the government, so I took my pension last year.
I have some more questions that are piling up here. Let's see. First thing is, I want to say Prince. I'm a huge Prince fan. I was just watching Sign of the Times. Check this out. Sign of the Times on Blu-ray. Although I got to say, I'm still not completely pleased with the quality. But so Prince vibes. Thank you very much. We have another law of self-defense super chat. Boy, see there, all of you guys that complain about Andrew just constantly grubbing and shilling. Look at this guy. He's come in with $30 in super chats in the first 10 minutes here. And I salute Andrew. This will make up for all of his aspersions to my beautiful guest, who is a real person, not an AI generated image. And he says, very aspiring, I think he means inspiring message, not consistent with my experience, but inspiring messages have value independent of individual instances. And yes, I am a bit of an idealist. However, I think that is old school, and that is the proper way. When I go to these lawyer continuing ed things, and they preach ethics, and they talk about what you should do and the best practices, that is what I wish to be as a lawyer, and not the minimum, not what I can get away with, not is how bad can we make it, right? So, and I'll give you an example. Some of y'all may know that I'm involved in a case that I can't quite talk about. Maybe someday in the future. It's a major case that's come through our office, and I'm behind the scenes, right? And I'm advising, let's say. We have lead counsel, we have civil counsel, and it's an internationally being reported case right now. But the thing is that you can do the minimum to get by, to say, okay, what is the minimum to say, like, to do what's the minimum so I don't get in trouble as a lawyer, so I'm not ineffective assistance of counsel, right? Mm-hmm. Or you can say, what is the best I can possibly do for my client? Well, for one of the things, look at this. This is you've got show and tell. I've got show and tell. Check this out. So there was a multi-tool that was used during the commission of this, let's just say, wrongful act by the police. But there was a multi-tool, and that multi-tool is now in evidence. So I ordered the display of the multi-tool, the smartest knife you can put in your pocket. Look at that thing. So then I can actually take the exemplar and see if it's easily flipped with my finger.
Oh boy.
Which it's not.
You do hunting.
Yeah, this is a multi-tool grasping in the hand like this. Wow. So I have an exemplar so that I can play with it and understand the scene, understand what was going on, and understand the interactions. So I got this, and this is like, so now we have this in our office to share and to use as an example, or maybe we'll use this as a demonstrative aid in court, or even put it in evidence. I don't know, but I don't have to order this. I did this with my own money. Mm-hmm. I'm just a public defender here. But what we can do is because one of the things is how easily flippable is this thing? That's the maximum flip out you can do with one hand. And it's not. So anyway, I'm just showing you all that if you is this a deadly weapon when it's grasped in the hand and you flip? Can't even do it. I'm just saying. And this is a smart knife, pocket knife, multi-tool handle. Isn't that cool? So the point is that we can all just people, and they know me for my K-bar, but now I have a multi-tool. Oh. So, but this is all people. This is all inside stuff. But the thing is that you should hold yourself to the highest standard, not to the lowest, the mediocre.
Yeah. You've got somebody in the chat. I think it's Day. Is that your day?
What's that?
Is it your day? ERRYDAY, a chat. And the person says, we have elite lawyers called King's Counsel. I did a video on how solicitors and barristers can become King's Counsel.
Okay, yeah. I'm missing this channel. Oh, here it is. This one?
Yeah.
Okay, so what is elite lawyers and being King's Counsel?
Well, there's solicitors and there's solicitors and barristers that can apply to the King's Counsel. It's like a application you make. I did a video on it if anybody wants to know how to do it.
Where are your videos held?
In my playlist.
Which is YouTube. What's the name of your channel?
Legal Minded Friends.
And how long have you been doing your channel?
Since COVID, since about as soon as lockdowns came in, I started doing them and didn't know anything about recording or anything. So
now, where are you from originally? You're from the US originally. I'm going to guess the Midwest somewhere.
Canada.
Canada. Oh, really? Okay. Well,
yeah.
Miss.
Yeah. So okay. So there's a lot of answers are in those videos to UK. So I do a lot of comparison to American cases, using them as examples, because we're not allowed to share a lot of information about our cases. And I got approval by the High Court to be able to use some of their cases. So I just did one on a cashless society. Like, should we make it legal that shops should take cash, right? So but the recording is not very good, and I'm
extremely against a cashless society.
Yeah, it's not
because if you've read Prepare, I think that that is a major step towards excessive government control of the populace.
Yeah.
And second, it's the same thing with the limitations on single passenger vehicles. Those are, everybody wants this public. Now, I'm not against public transport per se, and I'm not against credit cards or any kind of cashless transaction per se. It's the elimination of the option to have cash or the option to drive a vehicle, because those things are core to individual freedom in the States. Now, I know Europe has sort of a different view of things, but how would you reflect on
that? That's the thing. The video I did is a live video, and so it's in my live section, and it's called Cashless Society. But it talks about all of those things, like the reasons why it was brought to Parliament to find out, should we make it a law that they have to take cash, because there's no law that says somebody has to take cash. Right. So that was the question. And it's still not law that they have to, which,
Can I ask you, in Europe, of course, now you're in England.
Yeah.
What part of England are you from?
What part of England?
Yeah. Central.
Oh, London. So it'd be like the middle. So if you think of Wales is right here, I'm right there. So I'm an hour from Wales and a couple hours to London.
Okay.
You think where it kind of makes that little curve in England, where I'm right on that dot. So I live in fact, in my video that I just did, taking people to the Abbey, which that's why I contacted you, because I wanted to, put a part of your clip in my clip, and it's literally behind my house. So in the area that I'm in, it's like the middle of 3 districts, you could say. It's like the center of that. So, yeah.
Yes. How close are you to, have you ever seen or been associated with the rock group Yes?
No.
Something's going on with StreamYard.
I definitely saw, we have a Rocco Gardens behind our house, and we have castles that put in rock concerts. And so I went to see, what's that one? Roxy Music, because I remember your first playing was in a Roxy Music Hall, but it wasn't Roxy Music, or it was Roxy Box or something. What was that?
Yes. KLI, you must have missed me, because I'm lying about not streaming anymore. Do you want me to not stream anymore? No, I'm going to try to pack it in when I can. I have a really good idea for a live stream. We'll talk about this later. But we have a nice guest here, so we're talking. See, these are all my pals, and I love you guys, man. I'm so thankful for being here and not forgetting about me. And so, okay, yeah, I'm sorry, I'm having glitches here on my StreamYard. So if we get knocked off, but I have some good ideas, and I want to talk to you. I got some stuff at the end I'm going to tell you about, guys. But so Karen, now one of the questions I have, because you are a Catholic, and you sent me a picture.
Roman Catholic.
Huh?
Roman Catholic.
Roman Catholic, right? The universal church of all. But yet you are in England, and you sent me a picture or a link to the abbey that you are near, and
yes,
it really
that's the one I
beautiful.
took the trip to.
Tell me a little bit about, now that's because you're from Canada, probably, right?
Which is,
are you a cradle Catholic or are you a convert?
No. I was born Catholic. In fact, I used to work for the priest. I used to go to mass in the mornings, and one of our parishioners had his father was a judge, and he had just finished law school, and he needed somebody to help him. And I had been helping our priest with all the admin stuff. And so he said, Karen, why don't you go over there and apply? And so I went over, and that was my very first job, helping this brand new lawyer. I think he was, hot off the press, and he was doing, injury stuff. So I helped him for a summer, but that was one of my first. So the priest actually is the one that sent me over there. And oh no, everybody still thinks she's convincing.
Oh, and Branca's back. I love it. There is something called a caps lock, Mr. Andrew Branca. What you do, you push the caps lock, and it makes it so that you can actually type in lowercase. I'm just saying, because I know that some people aren't familiar with that.
He wants to be noticed. He's here.
Okay. Well, we know he's here, and here's MLS Law. Hey. Yeah, like I said, I've got a really good idea for a live stream coming up, which is going to be, people are always joking about my writing, and I write too much. And I think I might do actually like how to write, doing a live, because I'm writing a fantasy novel. And I was thinking about taking the idea and doing it live and developing it and writing and fleshing out the idea live for you guys to see. I'm up to 40,000 words on the fantasy novel.
So my parents, getting back to the Bible thing, look at my parents bought me, it's all roughed up because it's used, but they bought me a Bible years ago and inscribed it with my name and everything.
Do you have one of these?
No, I saw that I do have a catechism. But so they gave me this, and then, I keep my rosary in it and stuff. So it's kind of like nice to have it all zipped up and ready to go. But it's the King James version, and it's got like lots of, I don't know if you've got a Bible like that with lots of pictures and stuff, No,
I don't have pictures. The one I want the Bible that has like all the Jesus quotes in red. Have you ever seen that?
Yes, that's what mine has. Everything that Jesus says is in, if you go to the new, so they have all the pictures. So when they're talking about things, about different places, and then the New Testament is quite cool. Here's the New Testament, and everything that Jesus said is in red.
Yeah, I love that. I want to get one like that. I want to get a hardcover, a really good Catholic hardcover Bible that has all of Jesus's things in red.
And that's what this one does. And so my parents gave me that when I was about 10. And, and they probably, because it had nice pictures as well, right?
So Andrew is just rocking it with the super chats. Thank you. He's making all you other guys
Andrew.
Look. He's shaming everybody here. But
with Andrew, I admire just about everything he says. So I just want to say that.
You wouldn't admire this one.
What? Because
be careful what you say. Don't praise him too much. You'll just encourage him.
Yeah, but I align a lot. Like I've watched, like, civil law and Joe Good Logic, and a lot of the people that I align with your views. Okay. And so yeah, I just thought, there's a lot of, and that's something that you said about the law. And in England, it's the sentencing stage, okay, where we do put in those, where the judge does have that bit of leverage to
discretion. And your job as a defense lawyer is to show that golden inner self, if possible, right, to the best of your ability. And sometimes, we public defenders, it's a hard hole. I got a case today.
Your inner self.
Yeah, I love that. That's a wonderful. I'm going to get one of those.
Don't know if you guys could see it, but that is a good one, isn't it? It's like, and that's when I wrote sentencing reports, pre and post. That's something we focus on. Is I would go out in the community, meet the family, see what we could do with people. What's going to happen? How are we going to maintain family relationships? It's all about, rehabilitation, and judges should understand that as well, right? And a lot of times, like you say, even the judge, I've been in so many cases where you have to tell the judge the law, you know?
Well, but again, it's a difficult thing. I mean, I preach on my channel, and anybody who wants to listen, that each case, the beauty of the common law is that we have these grand pronouncements of law that passed by our lawgivers, right? And you have prosecutors who prosecute, but then you have ultimately a case, a person, a fact pattern, and each case has to be judged individually. Now, there's too much discretion, but there's also too little discretion. And what we're talking about when we're talking about discretion is taking into account the facts behind on both sides. We have an adversarial system. And so what you're saying is, on like your rock, the prosecutor is going to point out all that. Look at that ugly square rock with this thin veneer of brown on it, right?
Yeah.
But then we, as the public defender or defense attorney, we have a client and we want to show all this inner gold that most people have. Now, obviously, there's going to be, you have varying degrees of severity on both sides, but there are two sides. Nobody is nothing but pure evil. Here is Law Self-Defense again, just killing it. Thank you very much, Andrew. I'm humbled by your super chats. I mean, how many people get this many super chats from Andrew Branca of Law Self-Defense? Don't feel bad, Karen. My best friends tell me Peabody is better. Yeah, right.
Tell people about my business.
Yeah. He is killing it today. You're cracking me up.
Well, I thought, and especially like I watched the Murdaugh trial as well, and I heard your opinion on that, and that was exactly my opinion. Andrew had the same opinion. And I really felt that the prosecutor, there were so many errors, and I just thought, wow, we would never get away with half the stuff they did.
Embarrassing.
And the trickery and the that's just so different to an English court. It's a lot more professional in a
well, some
I don't know if I want to say that, but it is.
We've had good trials streaming, but I've been about 50-50 on good trials. I mean, 50% of the time we get a prosecutor who's just horrible, and that's depressing. That's a huge statistic. It shouldn't be that way. Thankfully, there are good prosecutors. There are good judges.
Oh, and when you see a good prosecutor, and you see, because when I worked for the county solicitor, because I'm taking the public to court, right? That's I have that power to do that. And so because you have that power, you have to take that power very seriously and make your decisions wisely. And, we don't want to put somebody in a worse position, but we have to apply the law equally, right? So because there's so much discretion, you want to use that discretion before you even get to that stage. So, the whole idea is we're not trying to make somebody in a worse position. We're trying to present a case as equally as we can, like as fairly as we can. We're not one-sided. We're not biased,
I want to show you this. This is what I have I've been doing this grading. I have my trial grading here. So
okay.
I grade the prosecutor, the judge, the defense, the defendant. And if you look here, I'm here's the Matthew Terry case that we did on legal vices. If you want to see a good courtroom, that was over in the Tampa area. It was a death penalty case. The prosecutor almost got an A, but that one, I gave A+ to the judge, A to the defense, A to the jury, and a B to the prosecutor, who just cheated just a little bit on one little thing. But he would have gotten an A also had he not cheated on one thing. But that was an excellent trial. I always have to remember that. And
I'm trying to remember the guy. I did a video on him, but it was called the suitcase. No, the ex-boyfriend. No, the ex-boyfriend. I did one on them too, but the ex-boyfriend. What's his name? Because I really do think that case wasn't proved. It was the same one that Rittenhouse was, the same trial judge and everything as Rittenhouse.
I don't know. See, I have my own cases, and they're not as public. Well, but you had talked about, you had said, some interesting things that I want to delve into a little bit more. And boy, before we do that, Andrew Branca, you're a hero. Thank you very much for making my night and for being the guy that's just swinging for the fences.
That's exactly what I think, what he's just said. Yes.
Exactly. This is exactly right. Exactly right. Alex Murdaugh likely deserves to spend the rest of his life in prison. We all agree on that. For defrauding so many innocent people, which are horrible, but not for the murder of his wife and son, not on the basis of that trial. So we have two parts here that we need to break out on this super chat. Number one is that I don't believe the state proved beyond a reasonable doubt. I think there was a reasonable hypothesis of innocence that exculpates Mr. Murdaugh. In fact, I think the evidence was exculpatory, was not, and because of the swamping of the trial on irrelevant things, because this was a murder trial that was all for 5 weeks of financial crimes. That trial was manifestly unfair. And I don't think that the state had the evidence that could prove beyond a reasonable doubt that he murdered his wife and son. In fact, I would say they didn't even prove it preponderance, the evidence, because I think there was exculpatory evidence given on his cell phone, which I went through. However, that doesn't mean I like Murdaugh. Yeah. That doesn't mean I think he's a good guy or that he shouldn't be in prison for the rest of his life. The problem is the murder of his wife and son, it just wasn't there. And that's
the video I did on the Murdaugh as well. I did a couple of them, and that's one of the points I was trying to make, because I think his solicitors at the end were trying to say, look, I went to Scotland and there's this thing called not proven, and he was trying to explain to the jury what that is. So in my video, I go into that further, a lot more, and explain what not proven means. And I definitely think, and I also did one on bringing in character evidence. And I think because of some of the things that Murdaugh said, it allowed them to bring in that character evidence, and then that opened up a lot of the other stuff, which,
have you reviewed the Solomon Anderson case?
Yes, that's the one I meant. Anderson.
Okay.
Yes.
The Binger prosecutor.
Yes. Oh my God. He was bad in the house, and he was bad.
Yeah, I'm very skeptical of that. I didn't watch the whole case. I only watched parts of it, but I know that the law tube community is very upset by the Solomon Anderson, and they've been having a GoFundMe. They are very much, in fact, Shane.
I thought the prosecution was very unfair. I thought the way they presented the case was unprofessional, and I was literally watching this trial, very upset, and I thought, this is so wrong, kind of the stuff they were doing.
Yeah, I agree with you guys. But from what I saw, because Nick Starro, on his channel, we reviewed some DNA evidence and something. I didn't get to watch that whole trial, and I'm like I said,
I didn't either. I didn't watch every single bit, and I really do want to watch it from start to finish. I did watch the popcorn, at the one in Florida with the elderly retired.
Right, that was an excellent. In fact, I know some people that were on the defense team up there.
That was really good.
Well, but you had talked about one of the things I think would really help our Yeah, that's the Reeves case, right? That would really help.
Yeah, sorry.
Our practice here is that if, like, say, every 3 years, say, the defense and the prosecutor's team had to switch tables, because that would, because I think that what happens, people get a very warped view of the world.
Yeah. Yeah.
How does England handle? I know they have a little different. Don't they just kind of assign an attorney to a particular case? How does that work over there?
Well, for me, I was in charge of all the debts for the county solicitor's office. So there was 48 different departments. Every single one of them came to me. And then I worked with Exchequer and the 48 different departments. So, but in our office, we had specialist solicitors, right? So if I was dealing with an education, somebody quit university and they still owe the money that they borrowed or whatever. So I would work with them. But if it was something, that would deal with, that got more in depth, because I was doing most of the like invoice chasing, you could say, and then presenting them in court. And, there's not a lot of argument to them, right? So you pretty much I've won all my cases. So it's easy. But with the more complicated cases, like, if there was, let's say, an injury on one of the public roads, right? Then that would go to someone else, that would deal with that kind of stuff. But yeah, I didn't get, like, we had specialist solicitors or lawyers that would deal with specialist areas, and that's how we would pick our cases. So if I felt that, like, for example, we had a lot of employment stuff, like where, because with the 48 different departments, you could have somebody that's supposed to be paid for work that they had done, and the manager won't pay them. So then they make a claim, and then I would represent the council and, decide whether or not we should take it to court. And if it's something I could handle, then I could handle it, but I could move it up if we wanted to, if it wasn't an area that I was comfortable working in, if that makes sense.
Yes. Okay. So now, what about your faith? How does your faith interact with your representation of clients? How do you view it?
Well, first of all, it's a professionalism. So I think faith teaches us how to be, not get upset too easily, not, internally take things. So I don't really think from that point of view, my faith interferes with, the work I do, right? So
I wouldn't say interferes. I would say it aids.
It aids. It doesn't interfere. So it aids. But because there's so many laws on non-discrimination and everything, so I wouldn't, just because of my faith. But from my point of view, my fundamental belief is to believe in the unseen, right? To trust in the unseen, and that each person is unique. So that plays a role, definitely. And when clients call me, I listen to them because they need to tell their story. And then we work together until they can get to a place where we can present it to the court in a way that they then can be the same professional, right? They can present in a professional way as well, because you can't go into court with all emotions and everything. The court just, they want the facts, they want the history. And so I think that helps, like, to be able to make sure that people that their story is listened to. So you gather all the information you can, because sometimes people, like, for example, if I get a case where it's a spousal abuse or something, okay, and they've come out with this in laws in England where if, for example, if you take somebody's phone away, that could be spousal abuse. So it's not just hitting, it's emotional. And so it's also getting my clients to understand what they've done is wrong. It's against the law. So sometimes it's a lot of explanations to say, well, you might have not thought it was, but unfortunately, that will be against the law. And so, whereas, in the criminal sense, you have to have the, the act and the thinking about it, right? But just because you didn't know that by taking someone's phone away, that would be a criminal offense, that doesn't excuse you from offending.
I have another super chat here, and it's from Mr. Branca, who's holding up the fort for all of you guys, all you slugs out there in the chat. Thank you, Mr. Andrew Branca, for putting a $10 super chat behind every one of his comments. See there, he's a man of he's not a hypocrite. He puts his money where his mouth is. You see there? Yeah. He says no answers except for $10 super chats, and here he is participating like a man.
Amazing.
And he says, Meyer, it was Zachariah Anderson was convicted. Solomon's his brother, fighting for justice for his brother. Yes, that's correct.
And we had a guy.
Solomon, I will say that a lot of my clients don't have the family like Zachariah. Having a Solomon who's out there fighting for him is impressive. So yes, and we're working, and I know that a lot of people are on Zachariah and Solomon's side, and I've got a book coming his way, but here we have a little thread here. I'll show you. I don't know how much you follow Andrew Branca of Law of Self-Defense, but Branca with his tie off again. But then he says, "How do you know if you've never seen me tie off in person?" That's a question. How do you know you've never seen me tie off in person? And then he says, you're an answer. You're not pregnant. And we all know, we all hang our heads in mourning at the wonderful tie that he lost in Vegas with Nick. And I can say honestly that it was not me. I have suspicions of who it might be, but I don't know who actually nabbed his tie.
It's the missing tie.
So
getting back to this with you, because you're a specialist in appeals, and I've done a couple of appeals.
Actually, my board certification is in criminal trial law. I'm assigned to appeals, but I'm basically a trial attorney.
And you were a prosecutor as well?
I was a prosecutor for 6 years between 1999 and 2004, about 6 years.
So were you given a lot of autonomy? Because I
was originally under John Tanner, who was my original prosecutor, who actually prosecuted the Eileen Warnos case. Mm-hmm. He hired me, and he was a friend of my family, and he hired me. And he basically said to me, do the right thing. Yeah. I hired you to exercise your judgment, and I expect that of you. And he never looked over my shoulder. I did my job, and I did it well, and he respected me for it. Now, I will say the incoming prosecutor had a different policy. And so I was with the old regime and was out. And although I existed for 18 months under the new regime. But he did me a favor, because I'm a public defender. I'm a defense attorney, and I was I will say I was in line to become a death penalty prosecutor under John Tanner. And I was about 60-40 for the death penalty at that point. Yeah. And God was looking after me, because I never prosecuted a death case. And when I came to the defense side and saw how horrific some of the prosecutions were and some of the behavior that was engaged in, it was jaw-dropping and shocking. And so, of course, as people know now, I have since written a book on death penalty debates, which now expresses my 100% Catholic view of being against the death penalty. And this is an explanation of why I'm against it, but also the reasons why you should be for it. So this is a balanced discussion.
It's really good. Yeah. And I had the same experience. Like my manager was the assistant county solicitor and the county solicitor. So I was like, you could say there's a county solicitor assistant and then my position. And they had the same approach. Like, you go ahead, make your decisions. We trust you. And that is that's
essential. Essential to have compassion, character, And discretion. Being a prosecutor can be the best job in the world if you're given discretion. If you are not, it's the worst job.
And then I went to another job, better paying, right? I didn't have that. A new management, and that I did have it for a while, and then new management came in and tried to even tell me how to write my letters, and
it gets the point that prosecution
like
is actually quite paid by numbers.
Yeah.
And if you don't have this, because the hard part of prosecution is exercising that discretion and knowing what the right sentence is. That's a very difficult thing. What is the right answer to? What's the right sentence for some particular crime? That requires a lot of human understanding and compassion and discretion. But if you don't have that discretion, you're just an automaton. Here's another super chat.
Yeah.
Let's see. Andrew's just you are the right guest to get Andrew's wallet open, and I thank you, Andrew. Do you want to come on, man? With this kind of super chatting, I'll send you an invite link if you want. In fact, I'm going to do it just in case he wants to come on, and then he can interrogate you to see if you're really an AI person or if you're actually real. And Andrew can, because I don't want to cut off the super chats, but come on, at this point, he's already done me right? Andrew Branca, Law of Self-Defense. Okay, I'm going to send you the linky if you want to come and interrogate. Linky if you want. No obligations to Andrew. And then here we have another. Let's see. Here we have another super Freedom Ring. Thank you very much. Which do you prefer, and with your spirit and also with you? Well, we do and with your spirit. I know that's the more modern reflection. How do you do it in your neck of the woods?
Well, we do it and also with you. But I've got a little book we can actually look to see what the Greenwich Abbey does.
Okay, there you go.
To see, because I know different people say the Lord's Prayer differently, don't they? The Protestants.
Well, there's minor variations. We our whole assembly had to be retrained to. And
oh wait, here we've got one, and the Lord be with you, and the Spirit be with you. So we have one of them. So here's, So there's that's that shut down.
Yeah, if Mr. Andrew Branca wants to come on and say hello and try to convince Karen Cole, UK lawyer, that you're really not as nice and you don't agree with her as much as you think, then you're welcome. But let's see. I got so much, man. There's so much. The thing is that I'm probably going to do another stream pretty quickly again. I got so much to say and talk about, but you're here. My guest is here. See, so.
Yeah, so I do want to tell you a joke, though, because I did go to a Catholic university, because University of Western Ontario is Catholic, and I did take a whole bunch of courses at King's College as well. And so Joan Rivers came to our university, and I don't know, you know who she is.
Oh, yeah, sure. Comedian.
The best joke ever, and I'll never forget it, but I just in case I got nervous. So she said, in our university, in our big auditorium, she said, the Jews have a 1-800 number to God, but the Catholics have a direct line. She had everyone roaring.
That's funny. That's good. You see that? Well, that's a Joan Rivers joke for you. Joan Rivers was wonderful. Well, Law of Self-Defense, Andrew Branca asks in a super chat format. And because he super chats, he gets the right to have his question answered unless it invades privilege, which it does not. Question: to what extent does this expansion of the DV, which is domestic violence, to such broad boundaries, also discouraging men from committing to women in the first place, leading to a paucity of husbands for those who want one? So yes, there is. What is your position on domestic violence enhancements as a weapon?
Let's just answer this question, because she says, is Western Ontario a real place? It's called the University of Western Ontario, and it's in London, Ontario. So
okay, there you go.
So people know.
That's Grant Rosh. Oh, Grant. Yeah, he ordered my book. Thank you, Grant.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can we talk?
Joe? God.
So what do you think about, are there special laws that have, see, one of the things we have here in the States is a must arrest type statute. Mm-hmm. And if the
Same.
must arrest statute, well, and let's see, but
Very similar, yeah.
Let's bring on Andrew to ask the question directly, since he's bribed his way onto my stream. And I'm
Andrew,
very happy about that.
I'm real.
She is real.
I don't know that.
Now,
I've seen.
Ask your question the way you want it.
For purposes of argument, I will stipulate that you are real. No worries.
Oh my God!
But honestly, it's an honor to be here with you. It's thank you, Steve. It's you come across as an absolutely great lawyer, and I love great lawyers. They're my passion. So I'm really humbled to be here. Thank you so much.
Well, your question though was about the implications of domestic violence statutes as being discouraging to it's I would just say my opinion, just my little short opinion. Oops, he froze. I froze him. My short opinion is that while he's frozen, is that it's just one of a whole panoply of things that are tearing the sexes apart in a very dangerous and poisonous way, that the family is the core of civilization. And yet our society, through its laws and other means, is doing everything it can to destroy and disrupt the interfamily relationship, of being these domestic violence must arrest things being one. But Mr. Branca, you're welcome to chime in on this one.
So I guess what I would say is, obviously, if a man is physically beating his wife, that's domestic violence, right? And no woman should be compelled to stay in that marriage. But today, and I've done my share of family law today, at least in America, things that qualify for domestic violence. I've also experienced my share of family law. But things that qualify as domestic violence are like a husband telling a wife, I don't want you to buy that. We can't afford to purchase that. That's domestic violence.
That's so hilarious that you say that, because in one of my videos, I actually use a demonstration that shows I've had cases, because I've done, since I've started on my own, helping litigants in person after retiring, I do a lot of divorces. So I've probably done 200 and worked on their financial settlements. And that's the worst, isn't it? So, but the woman will come in and
the kids are the worst. The money's easy compared to the kids.
Well, they fight about everything. So what happens is it could be used, like you say, both sides, isn't it? Because the man is trying to secure their income and make sure they have enough to support the family. And the woman is saying, well, he won't let me buy anything. He controls everything I spend.
Right. Yep,
and we even had, so I have this demonstrative that's like this guy, he's really big and it's like rich guy. But then if you turn him around, he's like a poor guy with, so, and I even had,
but most couples, they're not wealthy, right? Most people are not wealthy. They're normal people.
I deal with a lot of people like, in the 800, a million.
All right, like, but that's unusual, right? That's a fraction of 1% of the population in terms of income.
And so, right? But what happens is it's surprising how the courts, like I have one guy who was in debt, and a lot of people try to put their debts on their try to get it included in the spousal agree, like the remedy.
Well,
right?
if you get the benefit of sharing the money, why wouldn't you get the benefit of sharing?
And we don't do that in England. So if you go and get yourself in debt, your debt is your debt. And so, but I had one judge who the guy went and he paid off all his wife's debts, right? And then she went and put up the
got more debt, right?
And then he got loans. She went and put up the credit card.
Got more debt.
And then he thought, forget it, I'm getting divorced. That's it. And because the next time it was his pension, all his money from his pension went to that. And the judge said, well, you should have got a divorce sooner. And I thought, wow, that's a really harsh answer.
Yeah, but that's the real world. The real world is divorce court is a predator environment. That's a T-Rex. So when you're, I don't mean to be offensive, and if I am, I don't mean to. But when a guy marries a woman today, he's marrying not just the woman. He's marrying the woman and the government. And the government is a Tyrannosaurus Rex that if it chooses to, will utterly financially destroy him in favor of the woman. It doesn't have to. That might not be the outcome, but it can. It has that power, and often it does. And so my concern for all this divorce stuff is not so much for the divorce. I think, you know, people make bad choices. But young men who are the fruits of these divorced families, or see their friends or their brothers or their fathers go through this, they look at the prospect of things like marriage and having children and sustaining the next generation of humanity, and they're like, nah, bruh, no, not interested. That looks like being fed into a wood chipper, and I'd rather go to the gym, bang the occasional broad, not commit to anybody, not have kids, because guys are not biologically motivated to have children in the way that women are. I believe
totally different.
And so they'll just lay back, and if they lay back long enough, it's not so much a problem for the guys, but women biologically have a window of opportunity to bear children. Let's say it's a 20-year window, and if that 20-year window involves dealing with dudes who don't really want to commit, it's done. I mean, there's no way to bounce back.
Well, can I interject here, because I know Andrew comments on this topic a lot, and I find,
for better or worse,
for better or worse, not to ingratiate himself with people, but I think because he and I are genuinely concerned about the future of our society and our children and what they are moving into, because I know Andrew has a couple daughters that are, you know, someday hopefully get married. You'd hope to have a beautiful family.
I've got 3 daughters, so I care about women.
But you want them to be
happy
and you want them to have families and have lots of grandbabies. I wish my son to be married and have grandbabies and live a ripe old age with his singular wife. And like I've been married 25 years now, and I'm very happy, and I have a beautiful son, and I wish that on my I was walking by the bookstore the other day, Abraxas Books here in Daytona, and my buddy Jim, who owns the store there, we were walking by with my wife, and he said, you know, I just got a comment. You always seem so happy, and it's so rare to see a happy couple walking by my store. And I was like, really? Is that really that rare? Because to me, that is the biblical ideal, is a man and a woman being married for life, having children, having a family.
Well, my daughter's 37, and she just got married last year, and she had been with her boyfriend or whatever for 16 years prior to getting married. And I said, why would you get married? It's like, you know, I do.
When I talk about this stuff, I'm not talking about individuals. Any individual can make their own choice, whatever is best for them. I have nothing negative to say about it. My perspective is from a societal perspective.
Yes. Yeah.
And if, say, for example, half the population decided to stop having kids, they're each individually privileged to do that. I would never tell them that they couldn't make that choice. But that's a death sentence for society. I mean, that's a population collapse.
The baby bonus come into play. The government years ago, you know, we had the big baby boom and everything. You know,
and they thought that would happen forever. So our entire social and tax structure is based on an explosion in babies. We don't have an explosion in babies anymore.
We don't have it. So we encourage
that. We're replacing those people with immigrants. But for you know, but aside from that, and I get those arguments, but I'm not going to make an economic argument. I'm going to make a happiness argument, because to me, men and women were created to be together, and I don't think that anybody in the social environment that we live can say that either men or women are happy in the current state of affairs. I don't think that the women are happy chasing after these alpha males and sleeping around and getting, and all of a sudden missing that, like what Andrew says, you know, missing the boat and then living for 50 years alone and with cats. They're not happy. And men are not being satisfied or not happy with what to do. They don't, although the sleeping around and stuff satisfies certain biological urges, it does not satisfy the primal urge, the primary happiness of fulfillment of family and life and support.
Right. So the normal human being is not a Chad. He's not just trying to run through bitches, and it's not a woman who's a slut. Those are not normal people. Normal people, they have sex to have a relationship, to form something more permanent. We're social creatures. We want to be the most important person to someone else, and we want them to be the most important person to us. That's the norm. That's the middle of the bell curve. All this other stuff is, the far ends of the bell curve always exist, but who cares? I mean, they're not what's going to guide society to the next generation.
Yeah, and John Gray is, the one who, women are from Venus, men are from Mars. I think he's got some really good attitudes towards that, and some good, good reading about that, and Jordan Peterson, the same thing. I really like, I think men should be men and women should be women, kind of old fashioned that way. But, there's, I think that's the way it's meant to be. And
so let me ask you, I want to ask you, Karen,
like you say,
here he goes. Here's what he paid to get on. He's lining it up. Karen Cole.
But like he's saying,
go
it's
ahead,
not
Andrew
from an
Branca.
individual, but it's from an overhead of society. We need this. We need it for survival. But anyway, go on.
No, I never mind. I don't want to blow up Steve's show. Sorry.
Well, the fact is that
I forgot. I thought for a moment it was my show, and I was gonna dive in.
Lay it on. Yeah. Well, the fact is that I do think that the answer lies with traditional relationships, but traditional institutions being stronger. And I really think that the secular society that is out there right now is not worthy of being participated in by you or me or our families, and that we should vector our families into traditional communities and work very hard to get to advise our children to avoid the secular world. There's a really good book called The Benedictine Option, and it's by Ron Dreher. And basically, it's a focus on traditional Catholic communities like Karen Cole, who are surrounding themselves into old traditional Catholic Benedictine monasteries to associate with a smaller community. He's using the Benedictine monastery as an exemplar for how the Christianity and Enlightenment and family values survived the Dark Ages, was through an escape, keeping the flame alive in a smaller community. And I know that you're next to a monastery. What's the name of the monastery you're near?
Which one? Mine.
Right.
You're talking to me, yeah. Printch Abbey.
Right, and there's
Printch Abbey.
That's where you go to. That's where you go to mass, right?
Yeah. So it's Printch Abbey. I did I thought maybe this one would have a picture of it, but it's on. I did a trip there for my hitting 1,000 subscribers of Printch Abbey, and I thought it would be a good drive for people.
Is it in Latin?
Andrew,
can I ask?
Andrew, go ahead.
Yes, the mass is in Latin, so you don't understand. But for me, mass is a time.
I was going to ask, do you speak Latin?
No, but
all right. So I also was raised in a Roman Catholic church where it was all in Latin. Of course, I didn't speak Latin, so same thing. I was just wondering if it changed.
Well, I mean, when I lived in London, Ontario, I went to cathedral. One of my cousins was he used to teach at the monastery, and so those are in English, okay. But the Printch Abbey isn't. But it's really for reflection and the rituals and the prayers, and there's something you get out of going to mass.
No, of course, mass is a metaphysical act, right?
Yeah,
it's not
like
really
a restart
literal
almost.
Act. Of course,
you don't feel bad. Like, I can't go to these churches where it's all happy clappy, and it's a different. And that's
you should definitely come. You should definitely come to my church in America, the one I currently attend with my wife, which she chose. It's not a Roman Catholic.
I went to one in South Africa, a Catholic one, and it was nice. It had a lot of music, and it was so different to.
Right. We have a rock band.
To a high mass, and they had, and it was nice, but I didn't get the same feeling that I get. Like, I could go to a garden and get that feeling that I get to mass. It has to be on my own.
Well, there's a there's a need, and this is something as I get older, I recognize more and more that there's a human need for structure and ceremony. that is not fulfilled in freewheeling, say,
Yes,
Protestant churches.
that's what I like.
Meditation and
Yes.
I mean,
But
that's
also
by the way, meditation's great. I encourage people to do it if it helps them. No problem with it, but that's a different experience than when you're in a Roman Catholic church in mass. And I would say it's exceptionally intense when it's in Latin. Sorry, even though I don't speak Latin either.
No, absolutely.
But it's a different experience.
It's a different experience. And plus, I remember asking the priest, we had just bought, this is the cathedral in London. And I asked him, why did we just buy that great big marble? It was a podium. Okay. And I said, there's so many, we spend so much money on this. He said, Karen, people want beauty. When you come into this church, like, it's a beautiful church. It's beautiful.
Yeah,
it matters.
I agree with that,
of course,
a lot.
Yeah. And that makes people happy, and that makes people feel like there's something, and it
uplifts you. It uplifts you, and it's like you're going to a place, and if we're going to worship God in a place, let's make that place as beautiful and as uplifting and as wonderful as we can possibly make it. It represents all things that we should do throughout our life. In my belief is that we should, in all things, should you try to do, if you're going to do something, do it the best you can, do it right. And that goes with the church, make the church as beautiful as you can.
Can I interrupt
by the way,
for a second? Oh,
yes, of course. No, sorry.
No, I was just going to say, just quickly, with and sometimes it doesn't even have to be the beauty of the building. It can be the plants and the way the monks come in to the Preenham Abbey and the way they stand in the front. That is beauty. And then there's all these stained glass windows on the side. So it's simplicity, but it's still beauty. And so I don't know if it always has to be about money. It can be about, just the atmosphere and
respect for the,
Sorry.
Now, all those things. The older I get, the more I appreciate these things. Andrew, you had a point you wanted to bring up?
Yeah, sorry.
I was just going to say, I think the real point is for people to perceive an elevated sense of value for these principles that are being offered, right? It could be a cathedral. It could be people organized in a particular way, like monks might do. It could be lots of things. But we're saying all these people are doing all these things, these really difficult, organized things, because they believe in something that's of a higher value than simply going to the store to buy a loaf of bread. There's something more important here. And frankly, I think that's an argument that ought to be compelling even to people who are secular. Listen, this is an organized, tested way of dealing with the violence of life, real life, because it happens to all of us, that helps you get through life. And even if you don't want to say, I accept Jesus as my savior and all that, even if you don't want to say that, the structure itself helps you get through the hardest parts of life, the loss of a child, the loss of a spouse, the loss of a job.
Well, that was my first point, is the whole idea of trusting the unseen and the unknown, isn't it? It's like that if you just trust that, like, I'll tell you a little story. This is I like to count miracles when they happen, and I think we all have them happen, and we just
I've had my own, for sure. Yeah.
And you really, really do have to recognize them when they happen. And some people don't recognize them, right? So I was going on my way to meet a client. This is an unbelievable story. I put it on Facebook because I couldn't believe it. So I'm on my way to meet this client. I'm running late, rushing out the door. And this chap was in a wheelchair from getting hit from a tree, and had been paralyzed. Okay. So anyway, so I offered to meet with them at their property, and, so I'm driving there and I'm rushing. And then all of a sudden my car stalls. Now I have a very good car. It's never stalled before, ever. So I hit the light. Okay. And I'm going, like I'm swearing to myself and everything. Finally get going. So I'm literally now 10 minutes and I'm hitting every light. Okay. I'm going, oh God, this is so unprofessional. I'm going to be like, so, and I can't text in the car. And I'm thinking, do I pull over? That's going to take another 5 minutes. So anyway, honest to God, this is unbelievable. I pull up to the street and a great big tree had come down so bad. The entire road was blocked off. Police were front of me, back of me, all zooming in. And if it wasn't for all those delays for my car, for whatever reason, right? I don't know. And I called the person because the person gave up on waiting for me. My client was still there, but the person that was helping him gave up. So I contacted that person and I said, look, I can't even get onto your street. There's a great big tree. She goes, Karen, I just left there. And I went, oh, and I WhatsApped her pictures and she goes, oh my God, I just left there. And we both had chills. Like, it was unbelievable. And to me, that's divine intervention. You know, something happened. It's like, I think we have to count those blessings and recognize that when things happen, they do happen for a reason sometimes, you know?
And I would say when they happen, you have to recognize them and seize them by the throat.
Yeah.
Because not just let them pass unrecognized. I can tell you when I was, 42 years old, I was just divorced from a 13-year marriage, 2 beautiful little kids. Everyone's devastated. And in that moment, not in the moment I was getting divorced, but within a year or two, I happened to be walking down a street in Boston, Massachusetts, America, saw a pretty girl, talked to her, and I've been married to her for 15 years now. We have 2 more kids. And she tells me, she's quite faithful. She tells me all the time that was God. That was God that brought us together. And I can tell you, my second marriage is so different. The opposite of the hostile, the utterly 13-year hostile.
Your communicators and friends.
It's unbelievable what the difference is.
And you know, I will say, and speaking on Andrew's behalf too. I mean, and I've spent time in Andrew's home, and he really does. I mean, people don't know Andrew the way I've gotten to know him, and you really do have a home. It is an escape. When your home is beautiful, it is beautiful because of his wife and his family and what he's created there. And that is what I would wish on all folks who are out there. I mean, I wish the best. I want people to be happy and to have a home that when they go into, it's an escape from the world. It's a shelter. It's a refuge.
Castle. I agree. I think a home, I try to make my home as beautiful as possible. Maybe for somebody else, it might not be beautiful because they like simplicity and I like, you know, books everywhere. And I like something like it's a happening place, right? You know, lots of seating areas and TV isn't in the middle of the room because it's not the central, you know, and that for me, you know, and even my cups and the way I serve people there, it's beautiful. It's, you know, I try to make it always like,
and that's the ideal. Isn't that an idea? You have a vision, an ideal, and we should join together. And that's what I wish on people, because that to me is happiness. I mean, I know, Andrew, you're a happy guy, and it's not because of your, you know, your YouTube personality or your latest Rolex, although they're pretty
which is awesome.
Which is awesome. But I mean, really, wouldn't you say?
No, but it makes you wonder, right? It makes you wonder. It makes you wonder about life. I mean, life is hard, right? Tragedies happen. I mean, children get cancer. Horrible things happen in life. And I think of my first marriage as basically a 13-year prison sentence that I was in. But
and that's the thing, when you're not happy, you get out. I don't care what religion you are.
No, I stayed there for 13 goddamn years, man. I was listen. I was voluntarily imprisoned in that once we had kids, I stayed for my children. I wanted to see them every day. I did not leave that marriage until my then wife told me, I want you out of the house. And once she told me that, I was like, well, if I'm not going to see my kids anyway, then there's no point.
This is a good perspective, though. We're talking all sweetness and light and how happy we all are.
Were we? I thought I was talking pretty evil.
No. But I've been, maybe I'm talking good on your behalf. I'm trying to bring you into the light here. You see, but forget that. That's in the past. But if you
my life now is awesome.
But if you hadn't had that experience, maybe you wouldn't have quite the perspective.
That was the point I was trying to make, Steve, actually. So that bad 13. So I've been married 27 years, but 13 years the first time, 14 years the second time. But I'm not sure that I would have been as effective a husband in the second marriage if I hadn't had the experience of the first marriage.
You've got to know evil. You got to know bad to know good. You know,
and in fairness, my own mistakes too.
Yeah.
Right.
And we've all been there.
Like when I was a lonely guy through 27, 28 years old. And, you know, I don't know. I think that I grew past a point of desperation and into a resigned, I felt that I was going to be a single guy. And I resigned myself to that fact and devoted myself to things greater than myself, to said, okay, well, if this is not my fate, then I'm going to better myself in whatever way I can and do things for others. And that's when I met my wife. And so it's
best
almost
time in
like
your life as well, when you're not desperate. And that's
well, it is,
meet somebody.
You're improving yourself. You're improving yourself, right? And that's when you become most attractive.
Yeah.
And my advice to a lot of people that are single in this society is that sometimes the card that it's a harsh thing to say, but maybe your card isn't the marriage card. Okay, let's just say you don't have that card. Well, what are you going to do with your life to make the world a better place if that's not your destiny? Well, because you still, that doesn't mean your life is without value. It means that you have a journey to make. And that journey to make the world a better place is God dependent to me, because otherwise you'll just wallow in misery and self-hatred and resentment towards the opposite sex or whatever.
What
instead
happens?
of saying, I'm going to make myself a better person, and by making the world a better place. And I know that's hard in the face of a lot of tragedy like what we're talking about here. But that's the only rational response. And that's a Jordan Peterson hint, right? The only rational response to the tragedy of life is active, positive resistance.
It's not a rational response. It's a moral response.
Okay, well.
But don't you think okay, so where does it start? Does it start in your own backyard? Does it start with society? You know, this is the way I think. Like, by my actions, by the way I live, I'm hoping that all the people around me, you know, my associates and my friends and my family, you know, they will be in a better place just because I'm there and we're all together, right? And so, but I find that there's this society lately that if you don't agree with what they're saying, you're out of it, right? Forget it, you're out. You know,
Karen,
that really scares me, because we're losing that ability to disagree and that ability to, you know, communicate and talk to each other. Like, there's some things I'm now afraid to say to some people because I know how they're going to take it. And so
it's so funny you say that, because there's some things I want to ask you that I'm afraid to ask you.
Yeah.
I'm actually afraid to ask you.
It's closed my relationships with them because of that, you know, and I don't
put it
need
in the private chat, and I'll give you the thumbs up or not there, Mr. Branca. Because
no, I mean, it's not nothing terrible.
But with you,
Karen, can I ask you?
Are you regular female interrogation that he likes to do?
Are you now married? Are you currently married?
Okay. I did a presentation, but he didn't put it on.
Okay.
So I came over to England and married somebody here. That's why I came over. And
it's not a bad thing to not be married. I'm not trying to shame you. I want to make that very clear, but it provides a certain perspective on
the thing is,
conversation.
I had to find out from the church if I could marry this guy because he wasn't Catholic. And then I thought, oh, I really love him and it's going to work. And then it didn't work. And I was so grateful that I worked for like a place that I felt a lot of value. And I said, I'm not going through another 10 years of unhappiness. And it was really hard to get a divorce, right? You know, but you have to make those choices, you know, if you're going to be happy. And I just left a 16-year relationship. This guy and I just broke up, which has made me very, very sad. And he's the one that left me. And that has made me very, very, very sad. And to have a heart broken, it's kind of an experience I never really had before, because I was always the one breaking up or getting mad.
I get it. 100%. No, I understand 100%. Karen, it's been lovely being on the show with you. You're a lovely woman, and obviously a very skilled and capable attorney. And I love good attorneys. Trust me. The thing I hate most in the world is bad attorneys.
But look at the way she's presenting herself in a very calm and to me,
an honest way,
and telegenic. But also, I think that this is what faith gives you. Faith gives you that kind of grounding, that everything that, like, because you know where you are, where you are with God, you know where you are with your faith, and you know what's right and wrong. And so if somebody comes at you with some question, it's not some existential crisis.
Yeah.
You know who you are.
I was telling you before I came on the show, because he didn't want to talk. He wanted everything to be.
Yeah, we didn't talk at all before. I just because I find my buddy Mark Bernier, I was on the radio with for like 30 years back in the day, and he would never. I'd say, well, what do you want to talk about? He's like, I think it's best when it's fresh. I like to just lay it out, and so that's the same thing. I told Karen, she's like, well, what are we going to talk about? And I'm like, let's just talk, because this is the best conversation, getting to know you, right?
Yeah. So this chap, I was telling this chap about, I'm going to come on and we're going to talk about faith and everything. He goes, but Karen, he says, how do you, because he's married to a man, and I went to their wedding, and I completely do not have a problem with that. And I said, look, I don't view my religious beliefs are within, and each of us, God is for each of us, right? So that's not an issue for me, right? So, and that's where, when religion thank God there's a lot of changes.
Okay, you're a lawyer, right? You're a lawyer, so we can speak logically, right? So if two men, and by the way, I have no objection to two gay guys getting married. I don't care. It doesn't matter to me. If they're happy, great. It's awesome. Yeah. But they're not going to reproduce. They're not going to create children.
It's about living a true life. That, to me, comes before anything else. But
what is a true life? Is a true life not a life in which
who knows? Maybe it's
because their life ends the moment
domestic violence point. Andrew, did you know that the highest rate of domestic violence is between two married women?
Wow.
I do happen to know that point.
Can I address this one little point here that was in the chat? According to current Pope, you can marry whoever you want. I reviewed this because I know that the Pope recently got some heat from the secular media that wants to misrepresent the church and say that he is now blessing same-sex couples. Well, if you read the encyclica that was, the questions were, whoops, I hope I didn't scare him off. If you read the actual Catholic position on this, it's that if a same-sex couples to you and asks you for a blessing, the Pope is to, or the priest is to bless you. That does not, but that does not mean that the marriage is sanctioned by the church. That's a very different thing. It doesn't mean you
have to agree with something, right? But what I don't think is right is that everybody should have the same rights. And if you're a union, I just don't like, and I've said,
I think a lot of that can be done contractually. The question is whether the church itself is going to marry same-sex couples, and that is not what is doing on.
That's not what it's about, and it's not.
But the church is also a place for sinners.
Yeah, exactly. But everybody's got a different sin, right? So if that's their sin, who am I to judge? I cannot judge them. I'm just thankful.
Oh, no. We always judge. Jesus judged. Right. Everybody judges. We judge all the time. We may forgive the sinner, but we didn't fail to first judge him as a sinner. We judge him as a sinner, and then we forgive. Those are two very different things. We're not pretending there is no sin. We're saying, all right, you sinned. We see that. You did that. Now we're going to forgive you for having done that. But those are two separate steps.
Yeah, and I don't think I have. I kind of have a different. I don't know if it's my thought on forgiveness is only God can forgive and a priest can forgive, but what I can do is forgive and not forget, right? That's for me, because I have a responsibility to not allow my life to get to where I'm going to behave like I don't want to behave because somebody is there, if that makes sense, right? So,
but we don't really do that, right?
But
we don't really do that in social
when you
society.
say that, can hate the sin, love the sinner, it also it sounds like well, let me just kind of give a little perspective, because I think that we also have to recognize the doctrine of original sin, in that all human beings are innately flawed, and
we're all sinners.
And we are not worthy of heaven. We are not worthy of forgiveness. I remember my deacon said to me once, I don't want a just God, right? Because if a just God would not allow us flawed humans into heaven, right? I want a forgiving, a merciful God. And we do have a merciful God. And that is what it is. It's sort of the story about rich man going through the head of the pin. But the thing is, it's like, oh, well, that means that rich men can't get into heaven. Well, that means that nobody can get into heaven. But through God, all things are possible, including the camel going through the head of the pin. And that's the story, is that none of us are worthy, but yet with God, all things are possible. So
none of us are perfect, but we're all supposed to be aspiring to perfection. We're all supposed to be making the choices that bring us closer to perfection. Of course, we'll never achieve it, but we're trying to get as close to it as we can. And that leads not just more in a religious sense to getting closer to God, but even in a secular sense, it leads to a more productive, high trust, sound, reliable society, instead of the chaos that we see in, well, there's many societies we could look in the world where it's all chaos, where no one's taking care of children or farming or anything. We don't want, none of us live in that world, and we would not want to.
And I think, since Steve has said this and you've said this, Andrew, you've worked with obviously victims, and so you've worked on both sides of the fence. And what I tell victims, because I get a lot of victims, and I have this saying, and I would like to know what you guys think, your professional opinion on it, because I say a victim will get victimized. Okay. So are you going to continue to be a victim?
So do you mean like statistically, or it's like God ordained? Statistically, it's 100%. It's the same goddamn people all the time having the same shit happen to them.
You owe me another super chat for
crap. Oh, 2 super chats.
Andrew, this is a respectable place. You can be that. We in Catholics believe in indulgences.
All right, so I will do the super chats, but just to complete the thought, we all know that people who engage in suboptimal behavior don't tend to do it only one time; they tend to do it lots of times. So, people making bad choices make lots of bad choices, and it's very difficult to break them out of that cycle. In fact, they love that cycle; they live in that cycle. That cycle is where they're most comfortable.
Yeah. And when I worked for a Father Lara in Sarnia, Ontario, I used to go to church every morning and help him and work there at the church before I went to school. But anyway, I would say to him, how can you keep forgiving these people? And he goes, Karen, he says, every week, same thing. They come in with the same things. They've done it every week. They have to. And I said, well, don't they learn? It's like, I was like, if somebody said to me once I did something wrong, I'd be like, okay, how can I make it right? So I think everybody's got, and this is another question that I think is
not everybody, though. Someone raised in your society feels that way.
But that's what I mean. Do you think it's
I hate to say it, but like in
America,
we just had 3 million people in the last year from cultures that are completely different than American society come over our border, come into our country. Those people don't believe those things that you just described. I do. You do. Steve probably does.
I think that's something that is really.
It doesn't make them bad people, but it's a discontinuity in.
But you've got to have the same fundamentals, at least,
Well, if you don't, it's probably going to be a problem, and I think America has.
Can I circle back for a second before we leave this point, I did have a thought, and it was addressing, Andrew made a point that you see the same people committing the same things, and they're trapped in a cycle of whatever their sin is, the 7 deadly sins, right? We all have our favorite sin, and it may be gambling, or it may be drunkenness or gluttony, whatever the thing is that we like, that we cherish. It's our weakness that we feed into in sort of a base nature that we hope to transcend. But some people, the people that we see over and over again, oftentimes can't transcend. Maybe they don't have the will, they don't have the faith, whatever it is. However, the one thing that has been shown to be effective, the one thing that can change the person, is faith. And that's where drug courts are, and the 12-step programs we talk about. 12-step programs are based on faith. It's the only thing that can defeat addiction.
Right. So a lot of us in these conversations, all of us, the 3 of us right now, right, we're probably in the top 1 or 2%, 5% of the population in terms of intellect, social understanding. We think about these things, we care about these things, but 95% of the population is not there, right? They don't care. They're watching TikTok or whatever. It doesn't make them bad people, but they're not thinking about these things at that level. But they get in trouble. They get caught by the law, right? And so the kind of stuff that Steve is talking about is like, well, what happens if you get caught with a bunch of drugs, or if you get addicted and you lose your apartment? Or those people matter too. It's not that they don't matter. It's not just the top 5% of us matter. The other people matter too. But they're making shitty choices. And how do we guide them to making better choices so they don't end up in these horrible situations?
This guy
Absolutely.
Here,
and coming back to Andrew's point about society, because I've done a few divorces where Sharia law is the governing law, even though they live here under our laws.
Oh my God, we don't do that in America yet.
I've had clients want me to apply. I've had clients that have asked me to put Sharia law into motions.
Oh my God.
But what I'm saying is they will,
horrible.
So they get divorced under our laws, but they still have to face in their own communities Sharia law. And so even though they live here, they're still facing that. And that's the fear of getting divorced is so real. And in our society, I feel for those people, like for people in that position,
Well, I go ahead, Andrew.
No, it's okay.
No,
I was probably going to say something inflammatory, so it's fine.
Well, the faith is and I think that let's look at like Andrew was making the point about us being on the top percentage, worldwide, especially when you look at it worldwide. Clearly, there's a sin of wealth that we have. We have first world problems, right? And but these elites that run our institutions and that are embedded in government and academia, who look down their noses at people who just want to live their happy lives in faith with their families. Those people have just as much happiness being generated, maybe more so, by a simple life with family and wife and children and simple work and productivity. Their lives have value and they get happiness and fulfillment from it. And faith is a huge part of guiding somebody's life in that direction. And these elites look down their ivory towered noses at people who have faith and don't recognize the inherent value of faith across society generally. It's a widespread benefit to all. It's like, oh, well, you've got $100 million and you're living in some, gold-plated community and you think you're insulated from the world. And so you're going to impose your gold-plated values on people of faith who are living happy lives and disrupt, like the societal disruptions are affecting families at the lower classes. Like, marriage is now something for the very rich. It's been taken away and robbed of the lower classes because of these elite values.
Yeah.
So when I was, a little personal perspective. So I am probably, if you ranked me economically, I'd be in a fraction of the top 1%. Okay. But I was a garbage man when I was younger. I literally worked on a garbage truck, and then I became a diesel mechanic fixing garbage trucks. I was desperately poor. Desperately poor. I used to have to try to figure out, oh my gosh, can I live the next month on a box of macaroni and cheese every day for the next month? I've been broke. I've been poor. I'm not poor anymore. I'm doing quite well now. But I wonder to what extent that today's 20-year-olds or 30-year-olds have not had that experience where they've always kind of been provided for, where their parents were paying their cell phone bills and they could live in the basement and there was ready, student tuition assistance. And so they've never been a mechanic under a garbage truck with maggots and bugs falling on them while they were fixing the truck. They've never had an actual, and that, I've never been in the military, right? Guys in the military have suffered far worse than me, but I've suffered some hardships, and I wonder to what extent the young
look
kids
what
today,
happened with that guy that killed both his parents, Chandler Holderson. That's what happens when you spoil and you just you don't parent, right? So very difficult to parent them.
It's like immunization, right? In the old school, children, humans, everybody was kind of exposed in the environment, and we get a slight cold, and then we'd be immunized to a worse cold later on in life. And I wonder to what extent that young people today or adults today, having never been exposed to even a modest hardship younger in life, they just feel completely entitled that life is supposed to be completely clean, completely perfect. Everything's supposed to be delivered to them. And that's just not reality.
In our family, my hair is not going right, but in our family, you can Google it, Steve, but our house that I grew up in, we gave it to the hospitals, to St. Joseph's Hospital, and it's now a hospice. And at first it was like, I think a lot of us, because my uncle had bought it from my grandparents after they had passed away. And I'm sure it was like, they could have sold that property and built like humongous buildings on it.
Right.
And if you want to look it up, Steve, I can give you you can Google it, but it's a beautiful property. And so now it's a hospice, and I get phone calls from people saying, Karen, I'm in your house. It's like, and do you know that feeling that I get? That feeling, that is way more than if we all would have got 100.
Well, actually, somebody in Andrew's neck of the woods, my buddy who my mutual friend that we can't talk about.
Right. Yes. Yes.
He has a friend who donated the property which is called Garden of the Gods. And if you go there, you can see there's a huge plaque on the stone that has the donor family, and we went into the Garden of Gods with my friend, with the family that was the donor family of the Garden of the Gods, and it's like now it's to be shared. There's a huge brass plaque on one of the stones
that talks about
the family.
And for those who don't know, it's one of these amazing rock formations that we have in the Rocky Mountains in Colorado that are everywhere, but that are better. Sorry, Switzerland. They're better than the Swiss mountains. They are that dramatic. They're that amazing. If you have one bucket list item in life, come here, go to the Garden of the Gods.
Yeah.
Well, here, actually, let me show you. I'll just for anybody who wants to, so they don't even have to see how easy it is in this life. There's the Garden of the Gods. You see that?
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
that is beautiful. In South Africa, when you're driving the mountains and the vastness and the beauty, there's just something to it, isn't it? There is something to beauty, but that giving, right? So that feeling of knowing someone else is going to benefit from something you've had all your life, and there's just something that makes you a better person because of it.
Unless it's compelled. Unless it's compelled.
Well, here's another good. Andrew, you are just killing it tonight. Yeah. Thank you for coming on. This brings up another point. You're inspiring to me today. You see, this is why I love Andrew, because he inspires me. And I would say that this is a very good point. Compelled giving robs not only the person who's giving of, but also the person who's receiving. It's a mutual thievery of the joy of giving and the gratitude of receiving and the benefit. It robs both parties of the moral good. There's a very good movie, and this is a very obscure movie, but I'm going to recommend it. It's called Winter's Bone. Have you ever heard of this movie?
I don't think so.
Winter's Bone, and it is a very dark movie. It's not for kids. Let's put it that way. It involves some very brutal scenes in it, but it also involves this woman who is very hungry and very poor, living on this land. And there's a Thanksgiving, and they're cold, and they're in this cabin, and she's got these children she's taking care of. And the cabin people, they're making their dinner, Thanksgiving or Christmas dinner. And the kids are like, why don't you go up there and ask them for the dinner? And she's like, well, no, that's not our place to do that, even though we're hungry. But then the people then they invite them in for Christmas. And the people come there, and they enjoy this dining with this moment of these people who are generous with their hearts. And it's giving a warm, it's a very subtle lesson, but an important statement about this. We have replaced generosity and faith and giving in our society with the welfare state. And it has robbed our society of compassion and the gift of giving.
I'm a bit of I think you're an artist. You have music. I don't know, Andrew, do you have a hobby that you?
My hobby is making money.
No, his hobby is motorcycling, actually.
Well, I paint and I draw and stuff, and I find when I'm so busy, I can't do those. I can't paint. I just can't, because my brain won't go there. It's like, if you're in a
right
big
there
case,
you got it.
I can't think. Everything is, like just before court, I will be up all night type thing. So I found that's one thing law has taken away from me, if you want to say, working in law, is that ability to be creative. And that's what I think YouTube gives me, is that.
Here's another, see this, you guys are killing it. Thank you for coming on. You're inspiring me. Who I just had a nice conversation with, Ryan Bellinger. And Ryan Bellinger, people may not know, is one of our instructors at American Law Courses. He taught our evidence class. And actually, we were conspiring to answer a trial court question on hearsay. And I said, and I went over and knocked on Ryan's door, and I said, Ryan, you're the evidence expert, because he taught evidence. And he was typing away. He's like, I'm on it already. So he was already typing. So he answered for both of us in an office. And during that conversation, what was it you were just saying? Now I lost the thought. Oh my goodness. Ryan Bellinger, what were we talking about?
Can I answer? American
About
Law
being
Courses.
creative and using the
go ahead.
Using your creative juices.
Oh, creative, right. So, and we were talking because I said, sometimes I'll get depressed. I'm down and I'm up and I'm down. Yeah, but I think that emotional disruption is a byproduct of creativity. And I'm very high in creativity. But there's a cost to that. And you have to honor the muse. It's out of your control. It's something greater. John C. Wright, the author I interviewed on my channel, talks about that. It's like, I can't just grab the muse by the neck and tell her, give me what I want. That's like raping the creative energy. No, instead what you want to do is you honor the muse by following her direction and producing whatever is bringing you forward. And so, but that's a cost of creativity too, is sort of an emotional cycle. And I'm highly creative and I'm subject to that. So creative people are generally.
Yeah, this is a painting I did.
Go ahead, Andrew. Let's hear Andrew's thoughts here on his creative outlet.
So my thought is that the muse is often a crazy bitch. It doesn't mean she's not important and can't provide value, but you can't let the muse govern your life, right? We all have day jobs. We all have mortgages. We all have car payments.
Well, you're saying that as a conservative guy, but many people.
As a guy who has to pay bills. I'm saying that as a guy who has a mortgage and has car payments.
On the other hand, wait a second. I'm going to push back on you on this one because there are people that are extremely creative, very high, that lose what you're saying. They are not practical. They are not on top, because it's almost like you are.
Can you name one of them?
Yeah, I know people like this. I have a friend of mine.
I don't want you to embarrass anyone.
It's not a flattering.
So nobody knows who they are. So how
I know who he is. I know. I'll put it
societally. No, they're important to you, of course, and I understand they're your friends. But societally, to the United States of America, no one knows who that person is.
Yeah.
Well, I wouldn't necessarily say that either. I mean, look at somebody like a Salvador Dali. But
you're not claiming that Salvador Dali is your personal friend whose name you don't
no. But you're saying people would know and they're productive. The highly creative types dominate Hollywood and the software industries. Are a lot of those people, a lot of musicians, the artist community. Those people.
I was asking about your personal artist friends and whose name you would want to disclose, and I doubt Salvador Dali is one of those names.
No, but right? But they're a subset of those people. There are successful people and there are less successful people, but the highly creative types are a particular personality, and sometimes they're like musicians. They have to do music. The great musicians are people like, I have to play music. It's a muse that captures them, and some of them are wildly successful.
What I'm suggesting is that those artists, each artist should pursue their passion regardless of any other boundaries. They should just pursue their passion. I'm 100%.
I was on a
but unless their passion finds them within societal boundaries, they will never be accepted.
Yeah. So in between jobs,
I don't know. We can agree to disagree.
Year off life.
Karen, where do you stand?
Pardon?
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I decided to. Do you remember we were talking about having a boss that's gives you full autonomy, and then somebody that tries to control every word? So I took a year off life, and I did some sailing, and I did it so that I took a course.
I love sailing.
Yeah, I took a course on sailing. I grew up in a yacht. At a yacht club, we had
boats. I love sailing. It's one of my passions.
So I did 33 days on the Mediterranean. We brought a new boat to its new owner, and this is one of we passed the Rock of Gibraltar. Yeah. So I painted it for myself.
That's beautiful. Wow,
beautiful.
And it's nothing, right? It's not like gorgeous.
No, it's gorgeous. Actually, I would buy it. Are you selling it?
No. But for me, it's like it means everything, because that trip, I found myself again.
Yeah, right. So that's why I ride motorcycles, because I ride motorcycles all over the Rocky Mountains, all over the world, all over Canada. And I take pictures that look like that. And no one will ever see my pictures. I never show them to anybody who would care except for me. But that's my passion. In that moment.
But that to me means something, right? Like for me, that it didn't take long, and it's not like I'm, it just meant something to me, and it was better than, and I made it into my own color. So I took that artistic,
well, you were compelled to paint, and this is what I'm saying is that an artist is compelled to do their art, and that's kind of what defines the creative personality. And those are valuable things in society. They are different value set, although Andrew's see there, look, you're not in the fog anymore. What happened?
I pulled down the painting because I'm embarrassed. There's all this dust flying around. I thought he was getting my dust.
Well, we got to wrap. Boy, we've been going for quite a while here. I don't want to, Rob. We're going to dump it into Andrew Legal Mindset, who is also an instructor at American law courses. You're just right in the center here. We have American law courses. He has taught 2 classes. I've taught 2 classes, and and my buddy Ryan Bellinger has taught a class, and then so has the great, we'll say Lucretia has taught our con law class. So we have a great set of classes at American Law Courses. So I don't want to give up our grifting. And I got so much that I got to come and do another.
And your book, we want to grift your book because it's like your puppy book.
Books.
Okay, well, can I tell you one of? I'll sneak peek. I want to show you something just for you. Okay, don't tell anybody because it's limited. It's extremely limited. I'm trying to fundraise for my fantasy novel. Okay, and let me show you what I've got here. Present. This stuff. Share screen. So check it out. I want to show you what's available right now over at stevegosney.com. See over here on the shop. Prepare. Right? Look here. Hardcover Prepare, only 9 available. $85. I'm fundraising.
What?
And you also
what?
I'm also Ideas and Answers in Law, limited to 9 copies of hardcover Ideas and Answers in Law.
I'll sign it too.
If you all want to support and help me, because I need to, I've got an artist lined up for my fantasy novel, and rather than crowdfunding it, I'm just going to use some of the proceeds from the hardcover I've got 9 extra hardcovers of those 2 books that I decided I'd put up.
And sorry, do you have one where you're reading it? Did you say you have one?
Oh yeah. Well, okay. So thank you
audio. I couldn't remember.
Karen Cole,
that's the other thing I wondered. How old are, if I can ask you guys, because I think I'm a lot older than you guys.
I doubt it.
Oh,
I'm pretty old.
I'm pretty old. So because I was just wondering, because I feel like I'm on a little bit of a same wavelength, but then I think, well, but I'm so much older than you guys.
I was born in 1967.
Are you asking me my age, ma'am? That's kind of rude.
But she's asking a good question.
I will be 60 years old next year.
Okay, so we're all about the same, because I'm 62 this year coming. So yeah.
You're asking about audiobooks. So Prepare, there is not only there's the soft cover, there's the audiobook, which I read. There is the ebook, which you can download if you're in a country where shipping is costly. You can buy CD sets. Nobody has bought my CDs. I have a 6 CD set there if you want to buy it on CD, old school. And 9 copies of the hardcover Prepare, only limited to 9 copies. And once they're sold, they show Ideas and Answers. I have an ebook, and Death Penalty Debates. I have an audiobook, which I have read into, and it's done very professionally. I hope you know.
The covers are very professional as well. They're amazing.
Well, thank you. Here's The Summer Friend, which is available by ebook. And then there's Brucey the One-Eyed Wonder Dog, which is also available by ebook. And
Brucey's real.
What's that?
Brucey's real.
Brucey is real. And I will say that I'm also going to be coming out with a coloring book for Brucey that will be soft cover with black and white, that your child can color Brucey whatever purple or blue they want to make Brucey. So all of this is coming, but the big special event here is that I have 9 hardcovers for sale of Prepare and 9 of Ideas and Answers, and I have them lined up right here.
Grab them, folks, grab them.
They're $85. It's costly. Okay, so it's basically to support me. But
I wish I had a copy. I could have gone like that.
Very few people have hardcovers. One of them who gets hard all the time is just below me.
It's true.
He has. I think you've got a complete set of Gosney books, don't you, in hardcover?
I'm in my basement, so I don't have the normal supply of marketing materials that I would normally have. But I would definitely say to if you're a genuine man out there, a man's man, you definitely want to get hard, right? So you can get my book at lawofselfdefense.com/get hard.
Yes. Well, and so what you're saying to people is I just read there was an article. I was going to send
what
it
I'm
to
saying to people is I know how to market books. Is what I'm really saying.
But I was
You're
saying
going to
that
help me market because I don't know how to market.
Listen to this guy. He helped me. He's done everything. I mean, this guy has helped me a lot. But one of the things that he's done, I was going to send you this article. It was like, okay, you bought an AR. Now what are you going to do? Right. It was this article came across my desk today. And I looked at it and I'm like, and then I read the article and the article was like, well, you need this thing. You need a magazine, you need ammo. And I'm like, where's the thing in here where it says you need training and protection? You know, you could buy $1,000 worth of stuff, but it doesn't make it. All that does is create a huge danger for you going away to prison for life. What you need is Andrew Branca's Law of Self-Protection and Platinum Protection Program. Andrew, tell them about that.
Well,
yes.
Of course, you could learn a lot about the law of self-defense in America, only in America. I don't know anything about
Would the
UK
principles not apply? Because I've been listening to some of your stuff, and
Yep.
I have done a couple of comparisons to some of your stuff. So
oh no! Oh, you bitch!
you probably didn't even notice. That's why
Hey,
I didn't notice me. Like, but a lot of times I think principles are the same. And my mom will say, well, why am I going to watch your videos? I don't live in London.
Execution would be different, right?
But the principles are the same.
Right.
You know, don't you think?
Well, I'd love to have you on and send me links to your shows and I'll be glad to cross criticize.
Wow.
No.
It'd be like an honor.
Listen, I would love.
I didn't even think I was real.
I'm still not convinced, but I get inquiries all the time from people from like Canada, England, UK. Sorry, I don't know how that all works out, but saying, well, how does this work, Andrew? How does your stuff work in the UK? Like, I don't know. I don't know. But if you want to come on and be a guest and talk about some shows, I would love to do
that because that's one thing. One thing, a lot of what I've done in jobs as well is with the youth offending. I worked there 5 years. And all I did was interpret laws and make sure we could collect the information that the government wanted. So a lot of my work is doing interpretation of what does the law say and how do we get that in real life, right? And so I've said I can do this now. I'm not peer reviewed, Steve. Okay, so I've given it to myself.
Well,
so Steve,
Ideas and Answers in Law book. Many of these articles are peer reviewed.
My transferable skill is that I look at what words you're using, and I'm not Jordan Peterson either, but I look at what words you're using and to say, well, what word would we use in England? What word would I have used in Canada? Like for example, I did one on personal impact statements, and they're called personal. They're not called that in England, right? So I did the differences, and so that people can see where the differences are and how they can apply. Because I always say, no matter what, you can apply what I'm saying. It doesn't matter where you're from in the world. And I really believe in that. And you guys are already doing great work. I'm only making little tiny 5 to 10 minute videos, and you're creating the thoughts. Does that make sense? And I'm just taking them and I always say after Duty Ron says something, I will say, oh, I'm gonna do something on that.
You have to start somewhere, and you've crossed 1,000 subscribers, and you have a great attitude. You have a very calm demeanor. You're very rational. You have a very beautiful accent, obviously, that's just enough English accent to appeal to the American ear.
Steve, calm down.
Nobody likes me on.
He's got all the ingredients to be successful.
But it's funny because I'm not quite English. I'm not quite Canadian. When I was in California, they all said they never questioned my accent. So I thought, okay, I sound very Californian, and so I don't know where I fit. Where I fit with my accent. I don't know. I don't really have an English accent, and I don't have my Canadian accent anymore.
You think so?
It's a little. I can hear a little bit of the Canadian accent.
Okay.
Listen.
Sorry.
I don't mean that in an offensive way. Your accent is lovely. But I can tell you with 100% certainty, as an American, you do not have a Californian accent.
Oh, okay, good.
That's not.
But I do say
that's
like
why I
a
thought
lot.
it was Midwest originally.
I say like a
No,
lot. But
no.
Well,
I
Karen
grew up.
Cole,
Do you know where,
we're kind of
where Michigan? Do you know where Detroit is? Yeah?
I know where every place in America is. I've
Okay.
been to
You've
all
driven
of
on
them.
a
Go to Detroit, and then you go south, and I'm about an hour south of Detroit across the border.
Right. No, I would agree with that. South Detroit, you know,
but listen to the way she says south. It's south. There's
no, Steve. South Detroit is Canada. There is no South Detroit. If you go south from Detroit, you're in Canada.
Born and raised in South Detroit. Yep, I know
that's
that.
Canada.
You're in Canada. Right. So, and then we've had homes in Florida. So in Homosassa
that's
Springs.
Also not. That's also.
And
you also don't have a Florida accent.
And I listened to you with another Florida guy, and he was saying, yeah, but you can't count snowbirds as being Floridians.
So yes.
All Floridians are snowbirds. Sorry, Steve, but come on. You admit 50% of people who live in Florida fly in and fly out.
90% of people are not from here. I'm one of the few natives. I was born in Daytona Beach.
So half of Floridians have a Brooklyn accent.
So I have family that still lives there. We still have houses there and stuff. And so I went to Marco Island.
I love Marco Island.
Oh,
on the West Coast, right?
Meet you there because
it's gorgeous.
It's and where it's my uncle's house, and oh my God, it's just beautiful. And down the road,
get me an invitation, I'll go. I love Marco Island.
Yeah, and down the road was John Travolta's boat, obviously bigger than our boat. The house next door is
of
kind
course
of
it was
bigger
gay.
than our house because it's like a sheik's house. So you're like the cheap house on the block, considering, it's hilarious.
I always tell people, Americans, I tell that Marco Island, Naples, that whole area, I tell them, that's where the American homes are priced in euros because it's all Europeans who own them.
Yeah. And I've got a friend who has a house in where did you just say? Sorry, I've just lost it.
Fort Myers or
Fort Myers. She's in Fort Myers, and she's actually said, Karen, we've got a bedroom for you. And so
for me,
you can go
for
there.
You.
For
Sorry,
me. But the thing is, it's wonderful to be invited, right? But when you're in somebody else's house for any length of time, it's nice to have your own space. So I do want to go, like when I go places, I like to go for a month, to really experience it.
That's a little aggressive, but okay.
Yeah. So
that's the joy of the European system, though. I mean, they do have a little bit more favorable vacation systems.
So I was told
nip over to France. I mean, my mom used to say, "Oh my God, I can't believe you're saying you're nipping over to France to get wine," and I said, well, it's only going to take a few hours. Like by the time we take the ferry and then get back, it's like a weekend. It's really fun, And
first of all, your mom talking about you nipping is completely inappropriate. So
yeah, she probably didn't say nipping. Right. She said, "What the hell going there for?" She said, but she did come over one year, and we went to France together. We took the ferry over the Bay of Biscay. Oh my God. We had gales of 8, and it was like everybody was on the ship this way, and then we were on the ship that way. And I tell a really, not the Bay of Biscay for that trip. It was a Spain trip that I had the Bay of Biscay. And I tell the story that my boyfriend and I had a cabin, right? And I heard this knocking on the door, and forgive me if you're from my chat and but I heard this knocking on the door, and I said to my boyfriend, get the door, and he didn't get the door. So I finally get up and get the door, and it's him standing outside completely naked. And I said, what are you doing out here? But if you're on a ship, the door to the bathroom and the door to get out are literally, they look alike, right?
So you were dating a retard is what you're saying.
Oh, Andrew,
outside
this stream, I'm going to have to put the kibosh on you guys. Because we've been going for 2 hours.
2 hours. Oh, but I got that story. But That's a good story.
Steve, feel free to leave. Karen and I are having a great time. We can continue without you.
Listen, see, this is,
come on, Karen.
really,
You were dating that guy for how can I put
16
it?
years.
For qualities not attached to intelligence. Is that fair?
My 2 husbands were engineers. And then my dad said, Karen, you've got to stop dating these intellectuals. Get somebody that knows how to use a hammer. So, yeah.
Well, I'm pretty sure those guys knew how to use a hammer. Am I correct?
They do. Yeah. And the engineers line up.
The women, when you're honest with the women, they always give you honest answers. Karen, I so respect you for that. When you ask the women,
you are my kind of woman. And I really respect you. I'm really pleased and grateful that you came on and stream. And now you got to meet the great Andrew Branca.
He's going to shut us down. Sorry, Karen. Hey, Karen, good luck. Absolutely. Have a happy New Year. And Steve is going to
we have Andrew Legal Mindset is streaming now. So, and I said that I would dump into his stream. So now the Gosney move is to transmit the viewers over to Andrew Legal Mindset and then say Gosney raid, okay?
Oh, okay.
Legal mindset. Or I'm sorry, Steve. What are we supposed to say?
Andrew Legal Mindset. You know him. He works for you.
You say Gosney raid. You say Gosney raid. It's a YouTube thing.
So how do I get there? Well,
he's gonna send you there in the chat. Are you gonna send people? No.
It automatically redirects YouTube's.
Oh my God, you know how to redirect. I want to learn how to redirect because
hang out after when
it's so funny. Karen's just as drunk as I am. It's amazing. Okay, Karen, great to meet you. If we don't see each other again, it was a pleasure. Good luck.
Thank you. Night. Bye.
Good night.
Bye.
All right. Well, see you later, Andrew. We'll catch up. Okay. So
well, thank you. We better go so we can do the Gosney raid. And thank you.
Got to do the Gosney raid. Now that my chat people know how to do this, right? Because this is one of my favorite things. Because then I can go over there and say Gosney raid. All right. But we'll hang out for a second. Hold on for a second. But I want to tell everybody I'm going to try to stream again sometime very soon because I'm going to be out of action again for quite a while, I think. And I've got a lot to say, a lot to talk about. Go and get your hardcovers. There's only 9 available of either of these books, and it's to help me fund my fantasy novel. So anyway, thank you very much, Karen Cole. Anything I want to say before we shut it down here?
Yeah, I just want to say I've seen a couple of my people or whatever that have come over, and I hope you subscribe to Steve Gosney. He's got amazing content. And even though he's not going to be streaming for a while, he's got so much content that you can see him before the Florida Supreme Court appeals. Is it called the appeals of the Florida Supreme? And
both the 3rd District Court of Appeal and the Florida Supreme Court. I have some of those posted in the past if people want to see who I am, but I do.
That to me, I really wanted to get into the one where you were talking about arrest. So, because I have a lot of ideas on that. But anyway, everybody.
That's the Davis case, which is about whether the difference between de facto arrest and actual arrest.
Oh my God, I could do a whole day on that.
I know. Tell me, you tell me about it. All right. Well, I thank you very much, Karen Cole. Go subscribe to Karen Cole, UK Lawyer. And when we dump it over here, you're going to see Interlegal Mindset go say Gosney raid. All right. And I'll stream again sometime very soon. And so keep an eye on it. Go and subscribe and become like a member or something on YouTube. You can become a Gosney Pilgrim. And that really is nice too. All right.
I like that.
God bless y'all and good night. Thank you, Karen Cole.
Thank you. Do we take myself out?